Good evening. What's going on, Marilyn? Ooh. What up, everybody? Welcome to Late Night Live number 31. I didn't do a very good job of posting about this week's Late Night Live, so I don't know if many people are going to be here right off the bat. But that's alright. I'm also doing something a little different today. I'm using an earbud. I normally play the volume really low out of my computer speakers, but I'm trying to see if I can do this way so that the microphone can be set a little more, it'll sound a little better, and it won't pick up the audio. We'll see how it works. I'm doing quite well, Marilyn. Thanks for asking. I'm in a very chill mood today. I haven't worn glasses, I feel like, in feels like almost a month since I put glasses on, so I'm having a chill glasses, baggy shirt, hanging out, no hair product, relax day today. I had a busy week and I haven't done really any writing. My desk has been covered with other non-writing related things, so looking forward to having a nice chill evening of some writing, because I feel a little out of practice. What's going on, Ojaswini? Welcome. Oh, I'm glad you like the Hunt 22B. Ellen, that's great. Please let me know if can you guys hear the music right now? Everything's a little different because I'm using a headpiece today. So everything should sound and look normal, but I just want to double check. I feel like I make changes every week, and I never know if my changes are for the better or for the worse. Hopefully these ones are for the better. We'll see. There'll still be commercials because I'm not premium on Spotify yet, and our playlist today is coming off Spotify again. So sorry, Ojaswini. We got we'll have commercials today. Sweet. I'm glad you can hear it. That's good. As always, if it needs to be louder or if I need to be louder or anything like that, please let me know. Last week I did had there was a comment. Mom had left a comment and said my voice sounded a little bit quieter because I had dropped the microphone down closer to the table to try to get some scratchiness. But he said I sounded quiet. So the microphone is back up in its normal position today. So maybe no nib scratchiness. We'll see. All right, well, I guess let's dive into this thing, shall we? We're almost finished. What do we start with today? V. We're almost all the way to the end. I don't think we'll get to the end tonight, because it takes some time to get through these, but for sure, like next week at the latest. If we don't, I mean, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll rock it through tonight, but we'll see what happens. Oh, this is weird. I'm not used to having an earbud in. It's strange. Okay, so Mataraz's pretty standard, similar compound curve shade as he used on the U. Very long entry oval. Coming up, most of the shade is on the right hand side, and then this line, which if you notice, this looks like a compound curve going up, but if you focus from like here to here, that's pretty much a straight line. As it transitions from this into the straight and out, it gives more of an illusion of a compound curve than there's actually than an actual compound curve. Oh, camera. Let me lock that focus for you guys. There we go. Sorry. Cool. Let's dive into it. Get our Mataraz on. My laptop's also in a new place because I got my couch got delivered last week. My little couch. It's now sitting right in front of my writing desk. It got delivered, but it now sits where my laptop normally is. So I had to change up my the way things work ever so slightly. Tweaking. Always tweaking things. it seems. I mixed some fresh walnut today. I opened it a little while ago and realized I was almost out of walnut ink, or it was very close to the bottom. So I filled my jar back up with water and spooned in some crystals until it got to a darkness that I like, and that's where we're at now. Yeah, couch. It's my little, tiny little couch. It's more like a toy couch compared to normal people's couches. It's little. It's like, was it 51 inches wide? Just a tiny little love seat. Oh, there's commercial number 1. No, I'm not ready to go premium. Okay, so first off, we have to finish down here at this level. We went up too high, and I'm not tapering my exit shade enough, so we will have to work on that. But we can do that. Here, why don't I do this, since it's... I can only ever do this when we're at the top of the page, but I can do this now so we can see the V I'm going for and the V that is already done. There we go. There we go. Okay, too abrupt of a turn up there, and I'm not in the habit of ending so low. That'll take some getting used to. Too abrupt again. Alright, I gotta get smoother into that. Every time. How do I fix that? Oh, you got a tiny little ink jar. I never like using tiny, like little dinky dips and whatnot. I know a lot of people, probably way more calligraphers, like them than don't like them. A lot of people love them, but I, for some reason, have never really been into them. I understand why people like them. I like full jars, large amounts of ink. I guess it just means there's less time between ink fills or refills, I suppose. These are all very abrupt up there. I'm realizing today that one's not quite as bad as the other ones, but none of them are bad. They're just Matarazes were very round, which is apparently something I'm not used to. Well, I mean, that can help. I mean, just dip carefully so you don't jam the bottom of your nib into the jar too hard. All right. Guess I should do a warm-up. I haven't done a warm-up yet. I just dove straight into V. There we go. That's more the shape we need. Oh, she did. BLO, that's fun. Her class just started this week, right? That's exciting. She's a great Spencerian teacher. What did she say? What was the nod? There we go. That's rounder. That's what we want. Nope. Too sharp on that one. What's going on, Airvent? How you doing? Oh, that's fun. Well, I will have to thank her for that. That's very nice of her. This is... my hand's all over the place tonight already. That's fun. I like that people... it's very nice of people to mention me during their classes. Very kind community we have. There we go. That's the right idea. I just need to end it shorter. And then we're in a good spot, I think. Oh, fiber. It is very quiet in here today. We got 7 viewers currently. We're quite below the norm, but that's okay. I haven't posted on Instagram in well over a week, probably 2 weeks since I've posted anything other than a couple stories here and there. So I'm assuming my stories that remind people of the late night lives aren't getting widespread, I would guess. I'm not... the Instagram algorithm is probably not very friendly with me today, but that's alright. That's... oh, I ruined the exit stroke. That was the right entry. That's what we wanted. What's going on, coffee lover? I'm glad you made it to a live session. We're continuing our capital letter comparisons with the letter V, and I'm using this letter to warm myself up or raise my chair ever so slightly. Because my arm is not feeling terribly warm today. All right. It's a little better. I'm not tapering out of my V's very good today. This horizontal oval is suffering. That's the idea, that's better. Where's Fozzie? No idea. I haven't talked to Fozzie in a couple days. We haven't had any plant conversations or anything. I haven't really been on social media at all this week, so I haven't talked to anybody. Too sharp. I don't know if I usually do that or if that's just a today thing, but that's really weird. Alright, we're going to try this V a couple more times, then we're going to move on to our next one. That might just be the way my hand is today. That sharpness before the downstroke. Like for other letters, I like that. I guess normally I like that, but today I don't want it. That one wasn't too bad, but it's very strange rounding so much into that shade. This is an interesting zone. There we go. That's what we wanted. That's a good one. We're gonna call that one. That's gonna be our Mataraz V. Yeah, that is right, Marilyn. A little fascinating fact about Sumi Ink. Why would anyone take a break from coffee? I don't drink coffee, actually. Sorry, coffee lover, I apologize. I'm not a coffee drinker. I like the smell of coffee, but I don't drink it. Okay. We'll check out Blozers here. Entering in with a Spotify commercial. We'll start with this reverse oval into a large shade and then ending basically the same as Mataraz's. Nice, very short. Uh-oh. Whoa, excuse me. I'm allergic to that commercial. All right. Here we go, starting with, so basically the same thing, just a different entry. Still, I gotta get rid of that harsh turn. There we go. Closer. Slowly we'll refine it till it's right. Need some energy music. I don't usually write to energy music. I usually write to chill music. I could probably find another Spotify playlist that has a little more pep to it if that's what you need. Brian, definitely listens to very energy music. Oops. What kind of usually if a Spencerian person is writing with a ballpoint pen or a fountain pen, it's just a really lightly shaded Spencerian, often with unshaded capitals, sort of like a business script, like a Palmer method or classic business script, and then potentially with a slight shade here and there maybe. What's going on, Jesse? Ooh, that was a good one. I need to get rid of that. Why am I doing that so much today? Rave music. Oof. Yeah, I can't. I listen to chill lo-fi. I've been in this is a lo-fi playlist. I listen to very chill lo-fi music most of the time. I was listening to some electro swing the past couple weeks because it's what I was teaching to in my tap class. That was fun. That's what we want. Smooth entry. Okay, getting the smooth entry. It's coming along. Who designed my shirt? This is John Stevens. This one, I don't know if the design's still available. It was printed through John Neal Books. It was one of the shirts. I think I've purchased 2 John Stevens designs from them over the years. I don't remember exactly what year this came out, but yeah, this is one of John Stevens' Trajans or Roman capital alphabets. I need to work on my Trajans. There we go. That's the idea. My shades aren't as big as his here. We'll try a couple. We'll try to go for a bigger shade. That's awesome. Welcome to the wonderful world of penmanship, coffee lover. There are people who are pretty good at doing Spencerian or Spencerian-like scripts with fountain pens. I'm not one of them just because I don't use flexible fountain pens for Spencerian writing. But there are like Chin Long, for example. She's really good at getting really nice writing with a fountain pen. When I write with a fountain pen, it's usually unshaded, just like a business script, or all capitals when I do my own note taking and whatnot. Okay, bigger shade. Let's go for one. Okay, try a couple more of those, then we'll move on because I was happy with that one. 2 ago, give it a happy face actually, but I want to see if I can do one with a bigger shade. Oof, whoops. Ah, see that would, my shade is a little bottom heavy, and I compound curved quite a bit on the way out, but that's a nice V nonetheless. Nope. Blech. Couple more, then we're done. Move on to our next Penman. Can't decide if I need to slow down or speed up today. Oh, not too bad. We're too round on the bottom of these big shaded ones a lot of the time, but that's alright. We got that one, was very similar to Blowser, just with a shorter shade. Alright, let's see Mr. CC Kanan. I don't assume, oh, see now this is gonna be a real struggle. Same entry, oval, nice rounded entry. Look how early he finishes his shade before his nice exit turn and overturn out. I gotta end my shade super quick. It's nice to have you here, Peter. Welcome. Alright, we gotta cut that shade off super early. Whoa! I did it. I shouldn't be surprised. But that turned out, if you compare that to the ones before, that turned out much more similar to Kanan's than I had expected right off the bat. Turn my own music down ever so slightly. Well, that's fun. I'm going to do a few more of those. Huh. I don't know that I've ever ended a V that quick before. I've never really tried. That was neat. The entry ovals, not the... This would be much nicer if this was a nicer round entry, but that's just a bit of an issue today. Oh, you're liking it, Aravind? Since you folded it? Nope, not soon enough. That first one came out so naturally like his. Yeah, the ads are kinda... Now that the music is louder and right in my ear with my earbud, I definitely noticed the ads more than I did last week and the weeks prior. Learning about Jessie and her boyfriend Aaron.
His mindless humming was starting to get to me.
All right.
But since switching to public mobile, where there's rewards that lower her phone bill, Jessie is now free to feel the love again. Hey! No contracts, no commitments, and no hidden fees. Save more at publicmobile.ca.
So I like these exits from the shades. My entry is not as round as any of the Penman we've done so far today, really. Technically. But hopefully we'll get that smoothed out. It depends on the Penman. Some Penman made it really close together, Ervin, and others left them more space. I would say a good sort of gauge. What would you say? They're pretty close together. I don't know. I've never actually tried to think of an actual rule. Just close enough together that they don't look too close, but far enough apart that they don't look too far. That's the most unhelpful answer ever, I know, but that's kind of how I like to think about it. I don't like putting too much of a rule on it, because a wider letter can still look good. Okay, we're getting these shades ended. You can see the difference between what we were trying to do before and what we're doing now. It's pretty neat. Oh, this hurts my ear. Why does it hurt my ear? It's like I have it in upside down. I don't. Oh, I stopped the music. Sorry. I can stop the music with my ear. Oh. Like magic. All right. Yeah, like for me, the good width of the letter, like that's pretty much the width that I would shoot for most of the time right there. It's about, like if we were thinking if there was a lowercase letter close to that, like it's about the width of one lowercase letter-ish, maybe slightly more than that, like 1.5. But that's not a by the book analysis at all. That's just the way I like the V to look. I think after you put in the underturn, the lower curve, it would, for like a U, for example, it would underturn out, so it takes up more space. But because it's transitioning straight to a line going basically up your slat line, it doesn't end up being super wide. I think most modern penmen, myself included, make the V wider than a lot of the old guys did, just because of, I think, how we write now. But I like it to be narrow, but it doesn't always end up narrow. It's not honestly something I put too much focus on all the time. I should maybe put more focus on it, but it's not something I focus on a ton. All right, let's see. We'll call those last ones were pretty good. For Kanan, let's move on to Mr. Bernsmeyer. Okay, and a great example of what we were talking about last week with these beautiful accent shades, which I'm not going to be able to add those on purpose, but they came in because of his movement. And notice the difference. Last week we spent a lot of time trying to reenact or trying to recreate this shade that he did on the U, which had all the weight on the right side, and this was a curved left path, or path of the left tine, whereas his V is much more symmetrical. His V is much more how I like to think how he wanted to do his U, or how he was trying to. This is much less of a standard shade as the V. His V shade is, it's basically perfect. His compound curve here, or his exit stroke, is more compounded than the other penmen we've done so far today. Most of them do the underturn and then go up along the slant line almost straight and then curve out, so it gives that appearance of a compound. But Bernsmeyer looks like when he curves out, he actually travels to the left. Like it actually curves that line quite a bit more. So that's okay with me because I tend to do that a little naturally, I think. Don't hallucinate, Marilyn. Maybe it's bedtime. Okay, it is bedtime. Cool. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next week, if not sooner. Sweet dreams. Alright, let's go for Berensmeyer here. Same entry as Moderoz, but much round and more fluffy, for lack of a technical term. Alright, what do we got here? Alright, I'm gonna change, not something in my flange, but just something. We talk about flange adjustment and all that quite often, but if you look at my pen here, I'm gonna make a slight change because I find myself needing to force my hand over to the left. More than I want to, or it's turning. Wait, which way is it turning? Maybe I'm too far to the left. Something feels off. But if you notice, all this space between my nib and the end of the flange here. Give you guys some focus. So I'm going to take my flange and just rotate, or my nib and rotate it inside the flange so that it's closer to this end right here. And here, so we're here. This is flat and my hand is turned. But I feel like I'm needing to curve too much over, whereas if the nib is over here, I can relax a little bit and the nib will be flat. Whereas if I go to a relaxed position, the nib is canted to the right, which I don't want in this scenario. So if I rotate this over, I don't want to go all the way to that end there, but there we go. So it's a little bit closer. I kind of split the difference, went halfway closer to the edge. And now, when I hold my pen, I don't have to be right up here, right knuckles straight to the roof. I'm at a more relaxed, not all the way down, but sort of still knuckles up, but just slightly to the right, which now my nib is straight up, which should maybe be a little more comfortable. Whilst writing, I don't think that's why my hand is writing not warmed up today. That's just a little adjustment. My nib is normally like this and not so far over to the right of the flange. So one thing I have to do, you can notice it a lot on this one, I'm lacking the shape of this nice horizontal oval, and then also lacking the shape of this nice horizontal oval. My lines are connecting to each other decent, but they are not in themselves forming the right shapes, or the ones that I want them. Is it normal for one side of the nib to wear out more? Yep, it's definitely more normal depending on the paper you use, and depending if we're always writing with the nib perfectly flat and no rotation at all happening, then they're going to wear out pretty uniformly. But if we are writing slightly curved to one side, then that one nib is just taking more abuse and more damage than the other one, so it's going to wear at a different speed. So that's kind of one of the reasons it's important to try to keep your nib flat, so that your nib wears at the same speed. It can be kind of a telling or educational thing. If you notice that one of your tines is disappearing faster than the other one, then it's telling you that you're writing sort of naturally. Your natural grip is favoring one side or the other, which you might want to, and that's one of those situations where you tweak that with the flange. So your hand, you don't tweak it with your hand because your hand's doing what it wants to do naturally, unless you want to change your grip, but that's quite a feat, and that's harder than making a slight adjustment to your flange so that your nib is going to work for the grip that you're comfortable using. Which is essentially what I just did. I didn't change the flange, I just changed the nib's position in the flange, and it made the nib sit more naturally with my comfortable grip. Oops. Too wide. That's a nice one. Oh, Bairnsmeyer's is so long and skinny. Does that nib adjustment help with the capital shade? I mean, it would technically. I think just that nib adjustment will help everything because it aligns the nib with my grip. So it should make, in theory, everything be a little more uniform and natural. It's hardly probably a perceptible difference in the writing when you're writing with a really flexible, nice nib, but it will make a difference, I think. Crazy shaped ovals today. That's getting closer. Ugh, I ruined that ending. That was going to be a good one. 70 hours, that is a very long time.
Ad-free music. That means any playlist or radio station you want without ad interruptions.
How many hours could you get out of a Leonard Principle? Depends what ink you're using. Really? I don't think I'd put there's not an hour limit on it because it also depends on just that nib and what you do to it. If you put a nib in your flange and you happen to get one nib snap because you did a weighted upstroke by accident, you might toast a nib in the first 5 minutes. And there's no guarantee that every nib in the box is going to wear the same. So there's not really you can't really put a number on it specifically. I mean, if you're using walnut ink, you can write with one nib for a long time. The more nib snaps you get, the more you're going to tire that nib out. The Leonard Principle, eventually you'll start to lose a little bit of the snap, but that's only if you're shading really big for a long time. Like in my history in penmanship, and since I started, I I can maybe count on one hand the times that I've thought I wore a nib out because of tiring out the flanges, or the tines, sorry. You after flexing and coming back so often, they will get tired, but that's again only if you're doing huge shades. And usually when I do those shades, you know it going into it. I've probably done some on live videos where you'll say like, okay, this is gonna kill the nib, and you go for it, and then the nib won't want to flex back after that quite as much because it's sprung at that point, basically. But they can get a lot of use if taken care of, and if they're not snapping and the ink is friendly. Too wide. My V's are funky shaped today. Oh, the shade and the exit stroke on that one were good. The other parts, not so good. But the shade and the exit stroke were on the money. We're gonna call that one good. Move on from Bairnsmeyer. We're gonna get the V over and done with, because my hand doesn't seem to want to write them today. Alright, FB Courtney, what do you got for us? We'll go from what's he got in this alphabet. Okay, very similar idea. We'll go into it with we won't come from down and up. We'll start at the baseline here and do a nice oval entry to the V, very narrow, and then we'll do a long exit at about the half height. That's what we'll do, and we'll stop right about there. So basically the exact same, pretty much, aside from the first Penman we did today that had sort of iconic shade placements, specifically Kanan was the most different so far today. These are pretty standard, just with different entries, different exits, and things like that for most of the Penman. What's going on, George? Oh yeah, I mean, we technically just got started. We've only been going for what, 48 minutes? We're just two more V's, and then we'll move on to W, which I'm much more excited to get to the W's because I like writing W's for some reason. Nope. That's the idea. So if this was a little bit closer, that would have been what I wanted there. The first guy, I don't think he's probably the first one to start Twisters. I think he's the one who did it the most. I think he liked Twisters. Did he start them? I can't say that for sure. Maybe. You see them more from him than in the other Penman. But I don't know that he started them or if he was just the one that had more of them sort of published in the Business Educator and whatnot than other Penmen. My desk is clicking today. I need to take my desk into a vintage restoration person and see if they can tighten it up. I don't trust myself to do it. Oh, I kept the shade going too long. That's the shade I wanted. Ugh. What's going on? What's happening here? Both of those, I mean, shades and exits were nice, but those entry ovals were crazy shaped. Ooh, that's better. That was a good one. A little too tall on my exit stroke, but I'm happy to face that one anyways, because I like it. Everything about that one was bad. Not bad. Not as good as that one. We're gonna call that one good for Courtney. Haha, if only literary students were as studious as calligraphers. Some calligraphers. I don't think you'd want me as a literary student or a calligraphy student. There's a reason I have a shirt that says Slacker Table on it. Okay, I gotta change ears. These earbuds are not... I usually only put one earbud in, and it's usually my right ear. But I didn't today because that's the ear you can see. So I wanted to try to make my left ear hold the thing. This is the ear I usually have my earbuds in, but I was hoping I could do the left ear. But apparently my left ear is sensitive. Okay, where are we going? JD Todd, right? Our last V. What's he got for us? Oh, we'll do this one, just to give us a different entry. Same shades as we've been doing, basically the same exit as a lot of the first three that we did. Nothing more, nothing really new other than he does a double looped entry. So we'll do it that way, just to get something new, some variation in there. It's just a disguise. I mean, depends. When I'm at the table, I'm usually, well, if conventions are anything to go by, and Harvest or anybody who's ever taught me before in a class could possibly tell you, it's how I am in class. I listen, but I don't always work as hard as I should in class. I listen and I watch and I take in the information, and then I dissect it and break it down and practice it sort of at home or late into the evening on my own time. Okay, yeah, so this cascades down, so that's what we needed. That's one thing that popped in my mind as I was doing it. I didn't know if that was the way it's supposed to be, but that is, so that's good. Hey, what up, Fozzie? How you doing? Busy day at home today? Whoa.
With a freshly cracked Canada Grade A egg, 16 grams of protein, and 290
Nope.
calories, McDonald's classic egg McMuffin is often imitated.
What's going on, Lori?
Enjoy one today for just $3.50.
Welcome.
For a limited time only at participating restaurants. When you're bothered by your mobile company, you're bothered by everything.
Oh, Jessie again.
And her boyfriend Aaron. Aaron Penman's mindless humming was starting to get to Jesse.
His mindless humming was starting to get to me.
Me too, Jesse. But since
Ooh,
switching
there
to
we go.
public
That's what we
mobile, where
wanted.
there's rewards
That was
lower her
good.
phone
I
bill,
could have
Jesse
ended it a
is
little
now free
shorter.
to feel the love again.
Seems to be a habit of mine to end my V's rather
No contracts,
high
no commitments, and no hidden fees. Save more
in
at
comparison.
publicmobile.ca.
Almost strangled my... Uh-oh.
Get no monthly finance payments for 120 days on every new Mazda, and up to a $1,000 iActive all-wheel drive credit on select new models. Click the banner or
Oh, I'm way off screen. I was looking... When I was looking at my little monitor here, to see where I was in screen, I was watching this one. I was like, okay, yeah, we're good. We're in frame. But okay, well that's the one I wrote, and I guess I wrote that out of frame. Darn it! Whoops. Because this one, I was lining up in my brain was that one. But I apologize for being off frame. Sorry. Here we go. We'll do now. Maybe now it might not work, but I'll try to do another one in frame. Too close together. Nope. That kink. Urgh. I gotta find a good way to drill that out. I gotta do some dedicated drill nights. I won't do those on live video because they're long and not very exciting. They're boring to watch, but I need to do them. I feel like I've got some bad habits lately. Nope. That's better. A little too wide. And not quite enough cascade. This first oval should be higher. Okay, let's get a new sheet and we'll try a couple more of those. What is kink? So if you imagine, like if you take a water hose and you bend it, and then it gets that hard point in it, that's a kink. That's how when you kink a hose, that's when you bend a hose so it stops the flow. So for the V, anytime where I get, this was a pretty extreme example of one, anytime where I'm writing and there's like a where if I want that to be smooth, but I have like a sharp edge, that's what I call a kink in the line. There's like, if this is a line that we want and there's one of these, that's a kink. Or there's, if we get these, that's a wobble. But the kink is a big one. And usually to get rid of kinks, you speed up a little bit. Yeah, speed is how you get rid of kinks and wobbles. But sometimes kinks are hard to iron out than others. Oh, well, there you go. Peter, you can, maybe there's a whole school, a whole class, or a whole semester's activity studying or breaking down literature the way that calligraphers break down and reverse engineer writing. Maybe. Speed is best. I mean, not always. It's not about the speed though, Aravind. It's I've said it many times. I wish I could write smooth, slow, but I cannot. I cannot do it, so I employ speed to get the nice hairline that I want. Wait, I want to try a couple more of these before we move on to W. Kink, right there. No kink. You see how that stays smooth? No kink on that one. Just my ovals, and the shade is kind of wonky shaped. I feel you, Fozzie. I'll be doing a lot of, my whole Spencerian class is slow writing that I'm doing right now, so plenty of slow writing for me these days. There we go. No kink on that one. Too round and wobbly down here. Not wobbly, just too compound curvy. My hair looks, there's nothing in it. My hair is straight out of the shower today. Yeah, no product in it. Normally there's at least something in there to keep it to the back or to the side or whatever. But it's just shower hair today. A glimpse of Shonda Rhimes. How's her class? Wait, oh, are you in her master class? Oh, on master class? I don't think so. It'd be cool if there was. I would love to teach a class on there. I don't know if I have the credentials for master class though. Nope, kink. One more, and we're gonna move on. That's not too shabby. We'll give it a happy face. Not the best, but it'll get the job done. The little oval is a little squished, but that's all right. All right, back to MrMGWard. For W, okay, he starts us off with his compound curve entry stroke, nice and long, to a long stem shade, not short and cut off, a very long and round stem shade. And then if we look close at his W here, he goes upstroke, sharp on the top, slight compound curve down, and then, is that rounded? Yep, and then ever so slightly rounded on the bottom, and then coming up. All right, let's do that. Their promos are cool. They got a lot of good people on there. Okay. Oof, I didn't make that tall enough. And then straight up, I didn't get my compound curve down, and this needs to go curve a little more like that. We'll be talking. And this needs to get all the way up to the very top. Can do. Those are the two ways to do it. You either do it slowly, drawing or engrossing it, or you do it with movement. I've been doing more slow Spencerian lately because of my class, but the movement is what I enjoy doing the most, and it's what I like the look of the most. I need to figure out a way, I need to find a way to get more movement writing commissions. I get calligraphy commissions and signature design commissions, but I don't ever get to do movement writing as an actual, like, project. It's always just practice. Whoa, that is weird to do a compound curve. I did it a little bit, but this is an overturn instead of an underturn. Whoopsies. Nice. Hey, what's going on, Mohamed? I got your package today, Mohamed. Thank you very much. Actually, it's right here on my desk. I got it from Brian. I haven't done any writing with it yet, but I have it. Nope. Gotta be more round. Ooh, there we go. That's the entry we wanted. Oh, the main difference, he doesn't cross through the compound curves longer, so that his shade stays on the right of his reversed oval, but that's all right. Oh, Jessie again.
And her boyfriend Aaron. Aaron's mindless humming was starting to get to Jessie.
His mindless humming was starting to get to me.
Ooh,
But since
that
switching to
is
public mobile,
not pointy on the bottom. I think that might be the closest curve and not retrace I think I've ever done. It might even be a little too much, but that's the idea. We're gonna give that a happy face. And we do have a compound curve a little bit in there. We're happy with that one. It's a light shade. That's part of the Gray Shade Society letter. Alright, let's go. We're gonna call that good for Monterey. So we'll move on to Mr. E.W. Blozer. Okay, see, Blozer does, I do my W and my transition from a indirect or a reversed oval, more like Blozer does. You see here, so compound curve starts super low, then he has this horizontal oval bisecting the baseline, comes up here. Now notice the shape of between his V, which is round going into this shade, and then this one going round, but it has this sharper corner on top. That sharper corner going into the downstroke, doing it that way, is why my V has that kink that I was talking about in it, because this is naturally how I make that upward turn. I'm not used to bringing it back to fully curved on the top, which is something I now know that I have to practice more. But yes, nice shade, starts here, very low, almost at the baseline. A nice long ascender loop, compound curve down, and a rounded exit to curve, and quite low, much lower than I feel like Mataraz's was. He finishes with this horizontal oval, again bisecting the baseline. That is a beautiful W, and that is the way I strive to write them. So we will do that. I think hardest part being that slight compound curve coming out of the ascended stroke on the second half of the W, I think. Because it has to be slight enough. You don't actually do a compound curve. You do a straight line, and with your movement, it turns into a compound curve. Okay, started on a new line. How about yay for Gray Shade Society. It's a thing. I haven't designed the shirt yet, but it's a thing. Ooh, that's a little too long and stretched out. This should technically... That's how that should be shaped. If we were being picky, which we are, Whoops. Then it's supposed to finish all the way out. All right, Peter. Thanks for hanging out. Have a wonderful day. Or evening. Wait. Right, it is nighttime for you, yeah. So, sleep well and have a great early morning with the kids tomorrow. We'll be here. Probably, unless I decide to take a late night live break, but we'll see. I might take a little break from the late night lives after finishing this series. We'll see how I feel. I may not. I gotta let's fix that compound curve. We need to get this in here. Before we go any further. We'll see what happens, or just Winnie. Whoa! I made that way too round on the end. See, to do it Blozer style, he starts way down here. And this cuts lower than mine. Like that, and then his exit oval matches. They're basically twin ovals down there. Which is not something that I do naturally, now that I realize it. Closer, not a good enough ascending stroke though. We were on a break? When were we on a break? We took one off a number of weeks ago when I was on set. I feel like we've only missed one Tuesdays in 31 Tuesdays, haven't we? Well, no, 2 because we didn't do Christmas time. Oh, maybe 3 because of New Year's. Maybe. This needs to be bigger. I gotta hit the top. Getting there. Gotta get that compound curve stroke looking nicer. That's better. Much better. funky shape in here. This should have been up there. Trying to get, he enters his starting compound curve different, way different than I'm used to. Nope. Those are pretty good. Decent. Ovals are kind of crazy though. Yeah, the main thing, it's that ascended loop, which I always have had trouble with since the very beginning. And these are just longer ones, which I need to work on getting a lot smoother. Yeah, it's that stroke there, and then, like, I always get, like, that type of a shape, whereas I would want this to go up and then meet there. It needs to have a little bit more of an abrupt curve there to be the shape that I want. Doesn't usually happen. We're halfway there to our first late night live anniversary. Are we? Oh yeah, I guess. Halfway there. We got a ways to go. That's better. That was a good one. Do one more of those and then we'll move on if it's halfway decent. Halfway decent. Not all the way decent, but we'll get both of those happy faces just because I want to draw a happy face. All right. I have to go back and see when, because technically the late night live started on Instagram. I'll have to go back and see when my first late night live was on Instagram. On IG, I guess. Did I even save the first? I tried to save the first couple, but I feel like the first ones might have even glitched. I don't remember. All right, Kanan, what do you got for us? Okay. Kanan, super clean, super by the book. Oval entry into a very low, clean stem shade, not nearly as round as the previous ones we've done so far. And then he has this long undercurve. Look at how much space he put between the stem and the ascended stroke. But a long space to come up, nice loop, and then not a compound curve like the other ones, pretty much straight down to a point and then overturn on the way out. So we will do that. Oh, this is a commercial for that. Was it a new Netflix series? The Coroner, I think it's called. I haven't watched it. I don't know if it's out.
Returns for a new season. Coroner, February 3rd at 8:30 in Newfoundland on CBC and CBC Gem.
Oh, CBC and CBC Gem.
When you're bothered by your mobile
Not
company,
Netflix.
you're bothered
I wonder
by
if the
people
commercials are...
like Jessie and her boyfriend Aaron.
Oh no. The commercials you guys hear are obviously the same as the commercials I hear because I'm broadcasting my desktop, right? You guys are getting Canadian commercials.
Since switching to public mobile, where there's rewards that lower her phone bill,
Back in
Jessie
April, is that
now
when we
free to
started?
feel
Holy
the love
moly.
again. Hey, no contracts, no commitments, and no hidden fees. Save more at publicmobile.ca.
Ugh, ugly entry. I gotta get back into STEM mode. It's hard to not do the round bit at the bottom now. Here's another situation where, unlike this sharp turn, like what Berensmeyer had, Kanan has a very round turn, which is not easy for me to do. It's quite a change. No, the W shade should just be like a stem shade. Technically, it should start at about the halfway point, just like a T or an F or any other standard stem shade. Just some penmen tend to, when they round into them, like the M and the W and the N, they tend to start those ones a little bit higher, but I'm pretty sure not intentionally. Or it's no written rule that I know of anyways. It's a nice second half. The chirpy part with Kanan's version is we have this loop that's on the slant line, and then where I would normally bring this up here and it would transition rather abruptly to come down the slant line and shade out like that, Kanan manages to keep this round and parallel to this line, but he still has this short section where he's straight on the slant line. Ish. Yeah, like it's perfectly parallel, this part. That is much easier said than done. Or it's like he's doing a reversed oval like this, like a shade for a Z, but instead of doing a Z shade, he's waiting till the very end and shading it like a capital stem at the very end, which is very impressive. Usually to get that shade, I need to come from the straight coming down, which is why I get that abrupt turn at the top, so that I can come down the slant line into the stem shade. Curving into a stem shade is more challenging. For me anyways. So I'm going to try to keep a curved path like that and just shade at the very end, I guess. Alright, we'll see what happens. I forgot to shade, but I got the ovals looking relatively decent. They're a little too slanted. Nope. That's not gonna cut it. Weird. That is the weirdest shade ever. That is ugly. Strange. My focus is all 100% not on the shade. It was on that oval. Close. I still have to... It's not bad. Could be worse. Definitely could be worse. And I need to... Okay. We need to make that ascended loop be a little bit bigger too. It fell asleep. Yeah, it did. It crashed. Oh, I have tea. I forgot I had tea. As always. Oh, I forgot to put a plant in my background today. Usually, my ivy that I named Trinity sits in that drawer when I do late night live. But she's at her place in the window currently. I forgot to put her in her show position. Yeah, this one would be in Kanan's book. I mean, he has a ton of alphabets in his book. But this one would be in there. That's the idea. If it was taller... Yeah, see, we got this parallel curve. That's good. That's the idea. His is just taller than mine. My shade is a little bit bigger than his, which I'm not mad at that. But okay, now let's make this ascended loop a little bit bigger. I said bigger, hand. That's okay. We're gonna give that a smiley face. And we'll move on from Kanan. Ooh, that rhymed. Move on from Kanan. We're gonna move on from Kanan. Okay, Berensmeyer, what do you got for us? See, Berensmeyer, very similar to E.W. Blozer. Not the smooth, rounded curve in, he has the more abrupt, which is what I do more naturally. Into the shade, he starts his compound curves way up high and comes down, drops down into them, which is cool. And then this is neat. This is cool, it's like style points. He has an undercurve going out, and then not very round on top, but it could be round on top. His downstroke is a curve. It's curved the whole way. It doesn't compound at all. It's just curved to the left the whole way, and then rounded out at the bottom to have an overturn out. He doesn't always do them like this, but in this instance, I don't usually like to have that curved stroke on the W. I prefer it to be straight or slightly compounded, but it's interesting. And it definitely works. It's a pretty letter. Alright, so this stem will be much more what I'm used to, even though my compound curves haven't been super awesome today. That's gotta come lower. I forgot to undercurve. That's what we want. Okay. Sounds good. Let's make it happen. Okay, I want to also bring this. This part was good. We got here. This should have stayed in that direction to stay nice and rounded out. That's what we wanted. We can do that on a good day, so let's make today a good day. Ooh, very pointy. the idea. Not tall enough. Our stem isn't nearly tall enough, but the rest of it, I'm happy with. This could be a little bit tighter together, but I'm not mad at that. Again. Yeah. Oh, doesn't have as much curve as his. I did my standard exit to the W. Tonight's gonna be a good night. Do do do. Oh, not enough ascended loop. Ooh, that's enough loop. Too close to the stem though. Okay. So, undercurve farther to the right and then exit that same way. Or downstroke that same way. Can do. Can do. Nope. Flat bottom. Weird. Weird. Why am I getting into that stroke so strange today? It feels very wrong. That's the idea. Undercurve, curve. It's weird. I don't think that's a W that I will try to do all the time because of that curved downstroke, but let's try this one more time.
Even when it's overwhelming or heartbreaking, I have to find the truth. And I have to bring hope and closure. Because the truth never dies. I'm the coroner.
Yeah, that's the idea. Except for this crappy oval. That part is good. That compound curve entry stroke today is
When you're bothered by your mobile company, you're bothered by everything.
weird.
Like Jessie and her boyfriend Aaron.
Feels wrong.
Aaron's mindless humming was starting to get to Jessie.
His mindless humming was starting to get to me.
Me too, Jessie. But since switching to public mobile, where there's rewards that lower her phone bill, Jessie is now free to feel the love again.
Yeah, well,
Contracts, no commitments,
that's
and
Barons
no
Myers.
Save more at
What do you got for us, FB Courtney? Okay. Courtney's, we will start with a large overturn or a large indirect or reversed oval to a long, see how high he starts his shade here? It's not started as high as it would be for a Z, but it started a lot higher than a standard stem shade. Comes down, and then one of the few cases where you'd see the second stroke start on the baseline to undercurve up, and then basically, weirdly, the same as Kanan. Comes over here, he has this right curve or left curve. His it curves and then it kind of comes straight down a little bit more than Kanan's did, but curve, and then unlike Kanan, sharp point and then curve back over. And we'll probably finish that in either an oval or just an overturn, over curve. Yeah, accent ascended loop to curve and come straight, or to curve all the way down to point instead of. So that could be a lift technically, but not rounded at the bottom like Berensmeyer did. Berensmeyer? Yeah. I said Kanan a few times back there. I meant to say Berensmeyer. My apologies. Jesse must be very popular, or they spent a lot of money for their ad. How do we start this one? Right, undercurve. Not undercurve, reversed oval. And then starting on the baseline, which feels very weird to do. Like so. I caused an ink pool, unfortunately, but that's the idea. That's pretty much what his looked like. I do have a little bit of a compound curve in there. I didn't continue the curve going quite as much as he did, so I'll do that one again. Ah, not enough of an ascended loop. You see this whole, everything else is on slant except for this loop is way off slant. Darn. That works. You can work on your front stroke in your ink pools. There we go. That's closer to his. It is very scary starting that close to the shade. It is very easy for them to touch and to cause an ink pool there. His look like they're touching, but I'm assuming it's very likely that that example is engraved, which is why they're so close. Now this could be a little bit more pronounced of an ascended loop, but I'm not going to be that crazy overly picky tonight, because that's a nice W right there. That's a little more loopy ascended loop there. We'll call that good for Mr. Courtney. What we got next? Mr. JD Todd has, okay. Similar to the U that we did, we'll do this one just so it's different. We'll do our horizontal entry, transition to angled, spiral to, again, a long shade, basically a Z shade, pretty much, instead of a stem shade, to then start at what I would consider the regular spot. Then he comes up, basically no retrace at all. So it's almost like slightly curved at the very top, which is fancy. Comes up here, doesn't retrace, but hits a point to come down, to curve, to overturn out. It's going to be hard to get that so close without retracing down, but we'll try. Pew, 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 pew. Fine tech pool. I really wish I could get my fine tech to be like jarrable. I want a jar of liquid fine tech. I don't want to use the paintbrush and water the pellets every time I want to use it. I don't enjoy that. It takes the fun out of fine tech for me. Worst second stroke ever. My brain started thinking about something else. Whoops. Yeah, but this little not retraced top, you almost have to think of it like it's curved so that it doesn't hit that sharp point. Otherwise, it's forced to retrace. That's interesting. Interesting. Nope, not angled enough. Little oval. It's just, yeah, but pH Martin iridescent doesn't. I want moon gold. The Finetech moon gold is by far my favorite gold, and there are, to my knowledge, no bottled golds that match. It's like a silvery gold, very pale gold, and it's gorgeous, in my opinion. Too round on top. That is okay. We're gonna stop making it round on top. Yeah, I'm not a huge yellow gold fan. Most of the time, I like a silvery pale gold. I haven't tried Fox and Quill's gold. I actually honestly don't use nearly as many of their inks as I should. I need to get some. I need to put in an order. I mean, I've done mixes of inks and gouaches and stuff before. I found somebody who was it on YouTube who was trying to emulate Finetech gold with some silver gouaches mixed with golds and stuff, and I feel like I ended up giving up because I could get it right, but not like a bottle of it. I could get it enough right so that it was just like right withable for like one session, but then I would have to mix it every time, and that is not how I like to do my ink. I want a lot of ink. It's one of the reasons why I don't like the tiny little ink jars. I want enough ink that I can mix it and not have to worry about it for a very long time. Because I'm lazy. Because I'm from this lacquer table. I didn't round out that ending bit, and I was supposed to. Nope, didn't round it out there either. Oops. My throat is very dry tonight. I don't know why my throat is dry. The humidity level in my apartment is at about, I think we're close to 65 or 70% humidity. Wow. Humidity today. It's like a greenhouse in my apartment most of the days. My windows are foggy again today. That's because I was doing laundry though. How would I combat that long taper at the end of the capital stem? Are we on the one that I did? Or on JD Todd's variation, Mohammed? I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about when the capital stem gets this type of a shape. When it just travels too far to the left, right? When it's like well, that doesn't really have one. But when it goes, basically, when it has that little, not like a hard kink, but when it does that and travels too far to the left, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. In which case, I guess the way that I tackle that is the path that my nib takes. And I've explained this a couple times in movement writing shade making. I like to focus on the traffic or the travel that I'm doing is that of my left tine. So this shape right here, whoops, sorry, this shape right here is my left tine shape. Rather than being in the middle of the shade, I like to focus on that shape. So when I'm following that shape, I push my shade out to the right. So my shade is getting pushed out this way. But because this is the path that I'm following, at this point, I am lifted. So it's basically, I mean, not lifted. My whole arm isn't lifting, but my nib is off the paper. So at hairline, I'm trying to create that shape. Like that's the flow of my letter, lifting there. So that's whether I'm shading or not, I should be lifted by that point. And then if I add a shade, the shade should all be on this side, but it doesn't change the fact that that movement should start here and end here. It should be lifted by that point. In theory, obviously. So then it's just getting used to applying that shade at the low part so that it doesn't extend. Oftentimes, I think when we start the shade, we're not panicky, but I use the term panic. The anticipation and our muscles panic and they spasm there, and that's what gets them to, it changes the movement and it makes us pull that shade longer to the left, which, I mean, we're all guilty of it. I do it as well. Relatively often, unfortunately. But the plan is, in my head, I should be always creating that shape, which is the left tine. So as I'm going and I shade, my shade should be like even, it should be lifted by that point. So this inside shape is where the focus is, and the shade is happening outside of that. That's another thing that I think can happen with the, and this is just a guess. There are lots of penmen who do the rotation at speed, and this doesn't happen to them. But another thought that is popping into my head as I'm going, if I were to do this in slow motion, so this is not how I would write the letter slowly, and I'm going to try to do a slow motion movement written shade, if that makes sense. So we're here, our hand is in this position with my knuckled up. When I go here, when I come down, I start my shade. Now if I get to this point, I started my shade a little soon, but if I get to that point and then do a finger rotation, we can see what happens. Like if I don't apply weight with the finger rotation, that's the shape that I'm creating. I'm making this line a very shallow undercurve to the left. So if I get to this point in my shade and I do a rotation, that rotation is going to close out that way. So that can potentially create a straight line going to the left, which is what we don't always want. Or depending how we're doing that rotation, that's how we can sometimes get, like if the rotation, if the arm is pulling that direction as we're turning that direction, that's when we get like that shape going to the left. Almost like how we do a no touch-up lowercase t or d, but it's just happening straight to the left. So if we're making our shade and we pull, you see, that was a good example of what I was trying to do before. I got to that right point, and then my muscle said finish, and I went, huh. I finished it off, because we think of finishing flat on the baseline, but when you do that, you get that thing, which is a very, very, very common thing, or common shape to create by accident. And I'm pretty sure, never really thought about it this in depth before, but I'm pretty sure what I just discussed is what, because that created a perfect one. It gets there, that was less to do with rotation and more to do with my movement. As I came over, creating the shade, and then I ended reefing really quickly to the left, rather than lifting. So that was less, I guess, my theory was that had to do with rotation, but now I'm canceling that out. After doing this, I don't think I was really onto something there. I think what it is more so is the traffic of your hand. Rather than getting lifting the page as the left tine hits the baseline, like, because normally we'd want to go here. Once we get here, we lift. I think we tense up a little bit and go and get that, like, the whip that goes flat on the baseline, and that causes that shape quite often in my that's my theory. Yeah, I mean, it's essentially all that is. What that is how I do. That's a flat top T, basically. That's just happening when you're in your middle of your shade, and your shade is curved. But when you do that quick exit, like a flat top T, the lines are straight. So we have this nice curved shade, and then oops, I'm off screen, sorry. We get this nice curved shade, and then when I get to the bottom, if I go out that way, these are very exaggerated variations of it. So I'm pretty sure if that's what's happening to you, I think it's because you're exiting, your nib isn't releasing soon enough, and your arm is finishing with a straight pull to the left along the baseline, is my theory. Because this is a classic shape that I see a lot in a lot of people's work, myself included. I think in the years of training, I've focused so much on that left tine and this shape right here, which I think is why that doesn't happen to me as much. Yeah. Very good question, Mohammed. So I think to alleviate that, I think would be the release of the pressure. Not the, like, I always say, like, lift, but and people will say, well, I don't lift. It's not like your nib lifts. Your hand doesn't lift. You don't have to come all the way off the page. But, yeah, essentially. So as we're coming around, we're just getting that shape every time. Whether we're shaded or not, it should finish always at that same point. And never flat along the baseline. The flat part is, and again, this is just how I think about it. I'm pretty sure it's not all the right time, but in my brain, when I try to do it this way, it accomplishes what I'm going for. It gives me the shape I want, and that's in my brain. My right tine is the one coming down, and then as the left tine is finishing, I don't have to go flat on the baseline, because as my left tine is hitting here, my right tine is already closing in along that baseline, which is what will give me a flat bottom. Yeah. That was a very thorough going through that. I will try to remember to timestamp that in the description, because that's good. And I will also go over this more thoroughly. I haven't posted a lot about it, which is bad. I got to make a post tomorrow about it, starting February 21st. The Art of Movement Writing 2.0, the second level, or the second, not second version, because it's not like a revamped first version. It's for people who took movement writing, or the Art of Movement Writing, or for people who are actively practicing movement writing. We're going to get a little more in-depth into that type of the intricacies of movement and the combining of things, and hopefully some like into signature writing and combinations and stuff like that. But I will be making a post about that hopefully tomorrow, if not the day after that, because that's coming February 21st, and the week after that. Two weekend class. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's dive into what were we doing? Oh, I was doing a couple more of JD Todd's W's, right? Ah, you're very welcome, Ahmed. It's a good question. Whoops. Potbelly shade. Ugh. I just did that same issue that we were just talking about. There we go. Pointy on top, round on the bottom. Okay. Nice. That'll work. I will give that a happy face, and we will move right along. Yeah, I would just do, I would drill just this. Just get that shape without a shade, so you're starting here and ending here every time, or however you want to do it. Just do it at hairline, so you get your shade there, or if you're coming down from straight, come down straight, or you're doing it. Oh, whoops. I ruined it. I smudged that W, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We saw it when I wrote it. Yeah, practice doing that, just the hairline without the shade. And then once you're always getting that consistent stopping at that same point, see if you can add the shade, but keep the left tine traffic the same as a challenge. See if that works. George, yeah, for sure. The class Art of Movement Writing 1.0 is not a prerequisite to the 2.0 class, but it's just important that everybody knows that in 2.0, I will not be reviewing the basic foundation of the lowercase and capital letters. We'll go into more detail on the capital letters because there's not nearly enough time in the first in the 1.0 class to really get into all the shade families and variations and stuff like I would like to. But it's continuing from where 1.0 ended, which is after we review and do the capital letters. But if you are working on movement writing and you don't require that review from the beginning of the movement writing, then it's not a necessity. But if you need that movement, then it will be overwhelming because it's a fast writing class. We all write really quick. We write on a tempo that I dictate, so it's not just fast at your own speed. I give a specific tempo, either with a metronome or with my voice, and we accomplish we do all the strokes specifically on a certain timing, so that we're all on the same page. Sometimes it's too fast, but I do that so that everybody in the class is working at the same tempo, and then they can't cheat. Because it's really easy to cheat when it comes to movement and speed. Okay, let's go into X, shall we? Mataraz is X. What do you got for us, Mataraz? Long horizontal entry, compound curve, nice and close here, transitioning into a stem, a long stem, not flat on the baseline. And then over here, just a unshaded C to finish it off. Oval bisecting the baseline, kind of upturned. Not sure if that was intentional or not. And then he does cross ever so slightly, but the goal is always just to butt those lines, just touching each other. Yeah, or just when he's Smudge City over here. That's okay. I prefer Smudge City to Snap City. Smudge City just gets ink on my hand. Snap City ruins nibs. And gets ink everywhere. I cleaned my blotter the other day, so there's not as many nib splatters from when I was using white ink as there used to be anymore. Okay, Mataraz, let's see if we can do this W or this X of yours. Oops. Not angled enough. But we'll finish it anyways. Not touching. It is. They would do that little cross. If they happen to get them too far apart, they would cross them like an H. It's too close to be an H, so I don't think people would read it as an H. But it seems like that's when they gave it a cross, when they missed that that touch, that connection, which happens to me more often than I'd like to admit.
And fresh, never frozen Canadian beef. Only until February 14th at participating Wendy's. Taxes extra.
When you're bothered by your mobile company, you're bothered by everything. Like Jessie
There we go.
and her
Ooh,
boyfriend
that's a
Aaron.
very long shade. Whoops.
Aaron's mindless humming was starting to get to Jessie.
His mindless humming was starting to get to me.
That'll work.
Me too,
A
Jessie.
little rounder on that
Switching
C
to public
shade.
mobile, where there's rewards that lower her phone bill, Jessie is now free to feel the love again.
Me too, Fuzzy. Me too.
No contracts, no commitments, and no hidden fees. Save more.
Alright, let's
at
shorten up my shade a
publicmobile.ca.
little bit. That one was too long. It's a little better. Ankle's off now again, though. Not too bad, but I would like the angle of my stem shade to be a little bit better. Yeah, luckily X's aren't in too many words, so we're okay. That's better. Oh, I overcrossed. That's okay. I would rather overcross than uncross, because you can't read an overcross like a H. But you can definitely read an uncrossed one like an H. All right, let's try this one more time. I have to make this taller. I'm not getting all the way up to the top. Oh, there we go. That's what we wanted. We'll give that a nice happy face. Now, for my liking, this letter is a little too sharp on the left-hand side, but that is how Mataraz wrote it, so that's fine. Yeah, here, I'll show that one again, Fozzie. You can see here, very similar, actually, to how I just wrote it. Can I get them both in frame? XX. Yeah, you see he comes here, round, round, and then very, very close, relatively sharp up here to come down, which I'm not a huge fan of. I would like to have this have an extra loop so it could be rounded, or transition this and be more of an abrupt compound curve so that this has a little bit more roundness coming into it, personally. But I'm not Mataraz, so who am I to argue with the way Mataraz did it? Haha, yeah. Definitely, George. I know how that feels. Okay, so Blozer's X, I've never noticed. I've seen this alphabet many times, obviously, and I never noticed how bad this X is. Maybe that's really brave of me to call it bad, but look at that thing. It's a super long, sort of ill-formed shade, if I'm being honest, which I am. If it was my own work, I would be mean at myself, so I'll be mean at Blozer. Come on, MrMGWard, get your stuff together. But anyways, compound curve, same classic nice compound curve entry stroke that he has. I wish mine were as smooth as his. Shaded out. And he, unlike Mataraz started his little loop right here, and it was a little more, not quite horizontal, but more horizontal than Blozer. Blozer's little loop is on the slant line, but he starts way over here and dips into it and then comes up, comes around, and then does the loop bisecting the baseline, but doesn't touch them, but they are crossed because of his entry. But it looks like it's either a bad H or a bad X. That's not a very nice letter. But, sorry, Blozer, I won't be too hard on you, I guess. But if you were in the Art of Movement Writing 2.0, I would call you out, and I would tell you to fix it. Alright. We're going to try to get the center touch of his a little bit closer. Because I'm not a huge fan of the way he did it. And I'm pretty certain that wasn't intentional to do it like that. But I am going to try to dip into this little second stroke, which I've never done before. Starting with a long hairline before the little loop. Makes gauging the distance kind of different. Way overcrossed. Whoops. Why is there a dot after every letter? That's just how he did it. Just to separate each one. No specific reason. Other penmen did that as well. In their full alphabet, some of them would put like little commas after each capital. This is almost reminiscent of, what is it, Mataraz's. It's not the same, obviously, it's different, but he way overcrossed his X on his Freak Capitals exemplar, which I don't like that X at all, but this one is overcrossed a little bit like that one was. There, that's basically what he did. Looks like an H. Not a good X. It looks like his ish. I'm very flat today on this oval right here. All day long it's been like that. Or not all day long, but all session long. It does kind of look like a butterfly. We gotta try to fix this compound curve entry. I don't like that it's that bad, because I use it all the time. It should be good. I think when I hit about this point, or about this point in it, I need to focus on that large oval. I need to change where my focus is, because what I'm doing apparently isn't working. It wasn't bad. It's better. Not amazing though. I need to make that shade not go to the left quite so far. Nope, did it again. Super long and ugly right there, just gets flat. It needs to come down to about here. Cut it out, Mike. Why is that happening? I feel like that doesn't always happen. Just today. That was better. Ugly shade, but I'll keep going anyways. There we go. Upturned, overcrossed a little bit. I'll try that a couple more times. I do not like the capital X. It bugs me. Sorry, capital X. Not to be a hater. No offense to the Xaviers out there. Or the xylophone lovers. There we go. I didn't get quite long enough entry hairline, but that's a good connection there. So we'll give that a happy face and we'll move right along. I just realized that, yeah, I can control the music. That means, I want to test this out. I can pause the music. If I want to get serious, I can pause the music so you guys really listen to what I say. Or I can play it again. I think I can go to the next song. I can. And then if we really like that song, I don't know if this one will work, but I think I can replay this song from the beginning or go to the last song. Did it restart? I can't tell. Because it's the same beat that was playing. I'm going to do it again because now we have that hi-hat. Oh, it does restart. Oh, look how fancy technology, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. Late Night Live. We use technology. Totally restarted. All right. I might have to face the music one of these days and get a premium account. I don't want to. I don't want to pay for a premium account. Maybe I just need to get better playlists on my computer. Okay, what are we on here? X. Oh, interesting. Weird. Why did I not notice these before? Kanan's, very similar, minus the entry oval. His also didn't touch, but he didn't cross it, which is interesting. But he also starts with this hair, like a long hairline going into his C stroke. And he finishes under the baseline, which we'll have to remember. Such a clean stem shade. Like that's like perfect. From here down to there, that shade, that is like the perfect shape in my brain for the stem. No, just when I don't think I have volume control set up to do like this swipe or whatever. I don't think I do anyways. It might, the option might be there, but I don't think it's either enabled or I've never used it. Just track select. I always control the volume with my phone, I guess, most of the time when I'm using my earbuds. Okay, let's do it, Kanan. Super beautiful stem shade. It's so nice. The same as the W we were just doing. They're so clean. Nice and round on top and clean shade. Flat on the baseline. Nope. It's too long, but... Oh, of course we forgot to go below the baseline. Of course. Nice, George. I like that. Totally. It's added a bad word.
To speak for the dead, even when it's overwhelming.
That's hilarious, George. I like that.
I have to find the truth, and I have to bring hope and closure, because the truth
The music in this coroner ad reminds me of Stranger Things a little bit.
Epic drama returns for a new season. Coroner, February 3rd at 8:30 in Newfoundland on CBC and CBC Gem.
At PlayNow.com, your adventure is just a click away. Explore hundreds of casino games. See if your lotto
My
numbers
stem
match
isn't
your
nearly
and
as
place your
short
sports
or
bet
as
on
nice as his is.
PlayNow.com, your one-stop online gambling spot. 19 plus to play. Know your limit, play within it.
Nope. It's a little better. Oh, I didn't exit below the baseline. Whoops. I like that X though. Okay, we'll do a couple more of these, then we'll move on to who's next. Courtney, I believe, is next. Didn't touch. It's just so hard to gauge the X without slowing down. And if I slow down, the hairlines don't match. Wow. That sounds like it would have been strict or just Winnie. Okay, let's move on. We're going to call those ones good enough. Let's get to Berensmeyer here. Okay, so Berensmeyer's X starts the exact same as the U, the V, and the W that we've already done. He has this exact, like, almost carbon copy compound curve entry, oval, horizontal, shade, and then he doesn't have a little loop. He just goes in from a hairline, around, and then exit oval, bisecting the baseline. That's my favorite of the X's we've done so far, primarily because I like the removal of that little loop on the second stroke. Okay. Here we go. Let's get that. I gotta focus on that compound curve and get it shaped like I want. He starts his way up high. I gotta remember that too. And then just a hairline around. I still missed. Now the one thing we have to consider, we have to keep in mind, because this is so round and it's just a hairline on this side, he doesn't keep his left side super round, but it is, like, it still has this same curve here, but it travels out this way. It is much more round, so that it matches the right side a little bit better than the one I just did. Okay, let's give that a take two, shall we? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the idea. Give that a happy face. It's not perfect. Obviously, we extended a little bit too far, and the shade started a little bit too soon. Ideally, if we start that shade lower, then the hairline shouldn't even touch a shade. It should just be hairline on hairline. But like I said before, we won't be that picky today. I'm just going to try to do another one and start the shade a little bit lower. Maybe like so. So shade has a bit of a belly on it. There we go. So now if they touch, even if they cross over, it doesn't cross over into a shade. So you don't get that little pool following the hairline. It's a little bit cleaner, which is a better way to be, I would say. Let's take a quick sip of tea. If only wingtips can be done as quickly as a stem shade. Wingtips? I don't know what you mean by wingtips, George. Huh. So FB Courtney's... Oh, got you, George. Gotcha. Oh, wow. That would speed up the morning routine quite a bit, I imagine. So the X that... This is fascinating, because I guess I've never really looked close at the X's of these alphabets. I've never looked at the X's. So Courtney's starts with this long, basically a Z shade. It doesn't look like a stem shade. I think they kind of, with the W, they do it on the M and stuff too. WXM. Feels like some penmen push the boundary of the stem into the Z shade quite a bit, or into the reversed oval shade. But he has this super high started shade, which then you obviously have to be very careful, because if your hairline touches even a little bit, it has to like sit right off the side, or it's going to pull ink. And I'm wondering if that's why they left more of a space than you would normally want, just because they were erring on the side of caution. But he comes here, his looks, it's the same type of H as, who was that? Was it Blozer? Wasn't Moderaz. Yeah, same look as Blozer's. Which is interesting, but he exits with this like horizontal or like vertical, whoops, sorry, off the page. He exits with not a horizontal oval like usual, like every other letter in here. He finishes with this downturned oval that's almost vertical, which is fascinating. All right, let's do it. I like when they give me something different to do. It's no fun doing the same letter over and over, or the same variation over and over and over again when we're comparing Penman's capitals. All right, here we go. We'll start this one just with a large horizontal or a large angled oval, but quite round, I think. So it matches his, and then we're going to put it basically a Z shade, a reversed oval shade to get it going like that. And he has this little loop. And then we want it to just not quite touch, I guess. Ooh, I do not like... I got the right closeness, but I do not like exiting. I mean, that's too small. For this size of letter, I would want this exit oval to be about this big. But I panicked because his exit oval is technically like this. Which I don't like. I'll be honest, that feels weird. But many of the penmen of the past did them that orientation. So I should, one of these days, figure out how to do it like that. Interesting. Let's go again, shall we? Mm-mm. Gotta be ready for that vertical oval. Feels very strange. Arm panicked and shot to the left. I feel like I have to turn my page to do that. It just feels like a wrong. Like my arm doesn't want to move an oval in that direction. What's going on, Nino? We'll call that good enough. That's about as close as we can get. When we're shading that high, that's the tough part. When we're starting to shade that high, like Courtney did, you can't touch them. Because if you touch, you're going to pull the ink. It's just like how when we do the W's or the M's, when we do our stem shade, we don't start in that shade. We start floating off to the side of it. Because you don't, so that ink doesn't pool out. So you, like that's, where's the first one I did? This one, where I messed up the exit oval. That's, like, I would call that, like, perfect. Because it's not touching, but there's about the width of one hairline between the shade and the hairline. Brush liquid eyeliner. I don't have any of that. Do I? I have eyeliner though, somewhere. For when I play Chaplin, I have Chaplin eyeliner. On set yesterday, one of the other dancers was starting to learn, or he's starting to try to figure out how to emulate Chaplin, and we got just when like between takes and stuff. I was working on a TV show this week. Between takes, we were breaking like reverse engineering Chaplin's walk, because I've studied and have emulated Chaplin's movements for years, and it was I've never tried to like teach them to somebody else, but it was neat. The same approach to how I teach dance and how I teach penmanship, taking the movement and breaking it down, like pelvis, like hips forward slightly at the pelvis, wrists are usually broken but always sort of animated and moving, and then like the counter action of like the right knee lifts and the head tilts to the right. I didn't break it down that much when I was learning it. I just saw and copied, but then not everybody learns that way. Like in penmanship, I saw and copied, but then you break it down so that I can explain it to other people who like things to be explained that way. It was kind of fascinating. I mean, I have stage makeup. I don't usually do my own stage makeup. Usually when I'm on stage or on film, like yesterday, for example, I will have, there's a makeup department that takes care of all that for you. You just stand there or sit there and they make you look fabulous. But usually I'm camera, not stage, so my makeup isn't over-exaggerated like stage makeup has to be. I always laugh at, not laugh, but my friends in Cirque du Soleil and stuff, they look awesome on stage, but when you see them in person with their makeup, the makeup is so exaggerated. It's intense. But when they're on stage, it looks perfect. Nino, so there's, in this specific variation, in this, what we're doing here is just compare and trying to replicate exact capitals that certain penmen did. And in this example, FB Courtney he used like a Z shade or a reversed oval shade rather than a stem shade. So the shade is much higher. So if we were talking about this a little earlier, as an example here, this one of mine earlier, I don't remember which penman this was, but I think this was Kanan. But when the shade is like a stem shade, so you're here, and all the weight is below the halfway point, so where they touch is hairline. So then when you're coming into that one with the hairline, they can touch, because you're touching the hairline with the hairline. So the hairlines can butt up against each other, and you don't get any pools of ink. But if you shade too high, for example, like this one here, if the shade starts higher, like the halfway point, which most of the time people keep the shade low on the X so they can touch. But in this instance, if the shade is up high, then your second stroke can't touch the shade, or you'll get what I got right there. I mean, that's not always a bad thing, but you'll get that pool if that hairline butts up against it, which I think is why, like in Mataraz's Freak Capitals, he crosses like way over with his hairline. Granted, those capitals were very strange. They're called Freak Capitals for a reason. But in that instance, I don't remember how high his shade was, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was shaded in a way that it made more sense for him to cross all the way through rather than butt that hairline up to the shade. So you either want to get it, at least in my head, if the shade is high, you get it, you cross it, or I don't like to cross it, so you cross it, or you have it just be like almost touching, like a hairline or less than a hairline between, is sort of the goal in my mind. He's missing out on all this X talk. Shades butting up against things. Alright. We're gonna call that was the good one. That was Courtney's. Let's go to JD Toud. Oh, you're welcome, Nino. That's what these late night lives are all about. I feel like I've stumbled across some little like revelations about some of this writing that you don't necessarily notice, because we're sort of going over analyzing these letters so that I can try to replicate each one of them, and looking at the differences between how these specific penmen did these capitals. It's been fascinating. Like here, well, this is very similar to, this is JD Todd, but this is very similar to Mataraz's Freak Capital. But I think this is one of JD Todd's, I'm guessing he did them with a flourishing grip. So he's shading the upstrokes, but the same he crossed way over. We're not going to do that one, because I don't feel like doing reverse letters or using a flourishing grip. So we're going to do this one here, where you can see, same thing, he started his shade up pretty high, and they didn't touch. Now, everything I'm saying could technically be wrong, and they could want them to touch. This one, his shade is low enough, he could probably touch them. But we all know it's difficult to hit that connection on the X sometimes. But in this instance, he has, about a hairline's width between the middle. And his shade is high enough that it's probably a good idea. But that being said, if we look at this one, which this isn't the one we're replicating, but if we see this one, his shade is high enough and his hairline butts up against it, but just enough that he doesn't get that pool. So that's like you would consider that like the perfect butting up of lines. But that is hard to get all the time. So I think usually they err on the side of caution and have it be not fully touching, like in the variation that we're going to be trying to replicate. That's a drunk X. Yes. Oh, just Winnie, I agree it is. Okay, here we go. Let's get this. What is this? Horizontal oval. He's really good at the horizontal compound curve into the spiral. He does that very nice, very smooth. He must do it fast. It looks like it's done quite quickly. So we will try to do it quite quickly. Here we go. Not quite enough angle, but that's okay. Now he doesn't have a little loop. I like when they just start with a hairline and come down. I across too far. I went through the shade. Whoopsies. Now you can see the biggest difference that I have when I try to go fast. There's one thing that I lose every time I try to go fast, which I have to practice to attain. So this oval is nice. It's on the slant I want. This oval is nice horizontal. This oval is as well pretty close to the second half of it is on the slant that I want because it matches my stem. But if you notice, my compound curve is a straight line. It's on an angle, but because of the speed, the transition to those compound curves can tend to get stretched out. I don't know if Mehmet is still in the chat right now, but Mehmet, if you are in the chat right now, this is sort of what we were talking about on Instagram when you sent me that signature that you were working on. That compound curve gets straightened out and doesn't have a natural flow. So here, you notice straightened out. Instead of having a flow that goes like this, and if it would have a little bit more of that flow, it would cut into the second half of this oval would be the same, but it would put this oval undeniably on the slant line. Even though the oval is on the slant line, it is how we want it. It's just that compound curve makes it look like it's not what we want. And that's one thing that I lose a lot. And you'll see that in like the entry stroke, that is the compound curve entry stroke. That one of the things you'll see in a lot of the old masters and whatnot. It's some of them would have it be sort of straight like that, but a lot of the times you get that really abrupt. It's right in the middle. Like I do it too soon. They have this really abrupt, like as they transition into that oval. It's a very abrupt change, and they manage to keep that even when they go fast, and I tend to lose that, so that's something I need to work on. And it was just shown very, very well in that first X that I tried there. So we will try to do it again. It's so hard to go fast, but keep it abrupt. Way off. H. Wow, that was a horrible aim there. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Get out of here, little fly thing. There we go. That's it. See, you can see it not perfect because I did get a little bit of pooled ink. One thing that could also happen is you could wait. I don't imagine they did this, but you could wait till the ink completely dries on your stem shade. Or, I guess here, as an experiment, you could also do this. We'll see if this works. So you could do a large shade like that. You could, in theory, I would never do this because it seems like way too much work. You could paper towel or something and pull the excess ink out. So now there's not nearly as much ink in there. Lightens the shade up, obviously, but if you're working with a black ink, you wouldn't notice it as much. And now, if we touch that with a hairline, we won't get pooled ink as much, in theory. I overcrossed, so it doesn't really matter, but that's the... I wouldn't have if I butted up against those ones. You wouldn't get that pool of ink. Alright, let's do another one of these, but slow down just a little bit. Ugh. It's better. My compound curve is a little more abrupt on that one. Now we're going to try to do this again. Pull out some of the excess ink, and then I will try to pull my hairline straight, or just right butt up, or just, I'll try to get a perfect connection. We'll see what happens. If my aim is good enough. Booyah. Boo-yah. Get that happy face. So you can see there, this wasn't a perfect butt up. It does go into the hair, into the shade, but because most of the excess ink was pulled out of that shade, you don't get that shape. Now, this is way more work than I feel like I would ever put into it, but if I wanted that shade to look like it was full, I would then do this. I would cheat and refill that shade afterwards because the ink is still wet enough that you can pull the ink back in there without getting the pull through from the butt up stroke. Good night, Nino. Thanks for hanging out. That's JD Todd, and that's that. We actually finished our... What do we finish? VWX. We got 3 letters done tonight. I'm going to finish... I'm not going to do Y and Z tonight. I'll save those ones for next week. We'll finish off with a bang. Finish off our capital comparisons. Yeah, that's the end of the capitals. That was fun. Oh, I didn't read George's comment here.
The Bacon Deluxe is now just $4 at Wendy's. Compare that to paying double at other places for just so.
You had flies because your potato was... So George uses the potato method. Right on. I have flies in my apartment right now because I'm pretty sure one of my plants is having a little bit of a fungus gnat issue at the moment. I'm having a little bit of an annoying breakout, which I'm going to go to a nursery tomorrow and hopefully get some soil and repot that plant because I'm worried that the fungus gnats that are in there, it's frustrating, because that's a plant I bought from somebody else, and I'm pretty sure that's where they came from, was that plant, that person, anger. But I don't want them to infest the soil of my other plants. It doesn't hurt the plants at all, but I think that specific plant might have a little bit of root rot because of the soil it's in right now, so I'm going to repot it. Maybe tomorrow or the next day, but I'll go to a nursery tomorrow and get some new soil, because I've been having these little flies in there, little fungus gnats, and they're driving me crazy. There's not a ton of them. There's just enough that they're just sort of around, and they don't like sting or bite or anything. They're just there, and I would rather them not be there. They don't belong at my writing desk. Marilyn, all my plants have names. I have not quite a few. I have a good number of plants, and they all have names. My Monstera deliciosa is named Mash because of the Monstera mash. My fern is named Rasta because his ferns are like dreadlocks. I have 3 ivy plants that are starting to grow nice. They took a little while to get started, but they're the Matrix Trinity, or the Matrix Trio. There's Trinity, Morpheus, and Neo, are those 3. Neo's right here. I have Ink Drop is my little succulent that he's planted as a test in a vintage inkwell. So it's got like a tiny little thimble pot. He's really tiny, but I call him Ink Drop. And then I have a snake plant that I call Crease, because I watched Cobra Kai, and Crease is the Cobra Kai, and that's the snake, and it's a snake plant, and it's pointy, so it's Crease. So So that's all my plant names. I think that's all my plants. Yeah, that's all of them. I'll get some more eventually. But they'll always have, they gotta have names. I talk to them every day. Rasta gets the most attention. The fern is he's the pampered one at the moment. My studio lights that are lighting my area right now, quite bright. The one during the daytime is turned all the way, or really high brightness, and is shining on him all the time. And he has a cool humidifier on him all day long, pretty much all day and all night, just keeping the air around him super humid. He's pampered because he was huge when I got him, monstrous, and super heavy and just beautiful, and it didn't take well to my home at all. I tried everything. I tried watering it less, I tried watering it more, I tried so many things, and it just kept dying. And I'm pretty sure it was root bound, or it was pot bound. So I repotted a little while ago, and I'm trying to nurse him back to health. And there's luckily a ton of new growth, and I'm basing the health of him on all these little new fiddleheads, or these new fronds that are coming out every day. I take photos of one of them to see how much it's growing, and he seems like he's doing okay. I mean, ferns always do crummy in the winter, but I'm excited for summer, or spring and summer to come. So I'll repot him again, because this time it was just a deeper pot. Next time I will get him a little bit wider and some new soil. Yeah, I've fallen deep down the plant rabbit hole. I wish I had a greenhouse as well, Fozzie. That'd be cool. But anyways, I think I'm gonna end there tonight, you guys. What is it, 11:48? Sorry that we haven't hit midnight in a little while. Maybe next week. We have maybe next week we'll finish Y and Z, which shouldn't take us very long, and then we'll have a good playtime next week. Maybe I'll ask a question or something like that for afterwards on Instagram. We'll see. But maybe we'll just playtime afterwards, so we can have some fun. But I do believe we're going to end there today. Thank you, as always, everybody, for hanging out with me while we go through these capitals. We got some good analysis and discussion in today on some of these principles, which is kind of cool, which is always helpful. If you like this style of writing, if anybody's watching this video that is not in the chat, and you like this style of writing, I will be teaching this style of writing, Art of Movement Writing 2.0 class coming up February 21st. Should be a good time. You can sign up to that through The Gentle Penman, at The Gentle Penman on Instagram. And I think that's about all I have to say. So once again, for like the billionth time, thank you very much, you guys. Make sure that you are falling in love with this process. And don't forget that life should be just a bit of silliness, really. See you guys next week. Have a good one. A good morning, good evening, nighttime, daytime, lunchtime, whatever time it is for you. Peace.